Hi everyone! Before we begin, if you have any questions for our two guests today, be sure to follow our Instagram at Growing Gains Podcast and our YouTube, also called the Growing Gains Podcast, so you can leave comments for our two guests on any relevant posts and videos. Jasmine and Vanessa, can you give us your personal introduction?
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm currently a Form 6 student at St. Paul's Co-Educational College. I take the IB. For my uni applications, I applied to the US, UK, Canada, and Hong Kong. So since this is mostly focused on US colleges, for the US, I was accepted to Cornell, College of Human Ecology, and also a couple of other UCs. So this includes UCLA, Davis, San Diego, Santa Barbara. I think that's it.
Okay. So for context, you were going to a local high school, right? Yep. Okay, great. So we're all in Hong Kong. Yes. Okay, Jasmine, your turn.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine. I'm also a senior at St. Paul's Co-Educational College. Just like Vanessa, I also take the IB curriculum. And for uni apps, I applied to Hong Kong, UK, and the US. And for the US, I was accepted into Brown University, as well as Georgetown, NYU, and Berkeley. And for Brown, my major is undecided at the moment, so yeah. And for the UK, I applied to LSE, and I applied as a law major. Yeah.
Great, congratulations. Okay, so now we're going to move on to statistics. So can you tell us some of your predicted grades for IB if you took them, SATs, APs, TOEFLs, IELTS, everything? Yeah. Vanessa?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So my predicted grades were 45 for the IB. And then so my subjects were Chinese ASL, English BHL, Math AASL, Chemistry, Biology, and History HL. And then for my standardized tests, I took the SAT, where I got 1560, and it was 780 for both Math and English. And then I submitted 2 subject tests. I actually took 3, but I messed up my math. So I submitted Bio and Chem, both were 790. And then my IELTS was 8. Yeah.
For bio, do you choose?
Oh yeah. I did the ecology.
Okay.
So same as Vanessa, I got a 45 predicted for my IB, and we take the same subject. So I'm also a Chem Bio History student and a Chem Bio English B HL and History HL. And then for the SAT, I took the SAT one only, so I didn't take the SAT subject test, and I got a 1550. So that was a 800 for math and a 750 for English, and so I just submitted that. And I also took the ACT, and I got a 35 for my ACT. And I think that's it for the US standardized testing. And for the UK, I took the IELTS. I got 8.5, and then I also had to take the LNAT because I applied as a law major, and I think I got a 20. I forgot. I think it's a 28 or 29 out of 40.
For LNAT, you only submitted to UK universities. You don't do it to the US.
No, it's only for UK universities. If you apply as a law major.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I forgot about my UK standardized test. So for UK, I applied for 4 medicine choices and then 1 biomed choice. And then so I took both the BMAT and the UCAT. I don't exactly remember my scores, but I think for UCAT it was around 3,000-ish, and band 2 for situational judgment.
Okay. I'm sure they know if
they
take it. Yeah. Okay, moving on. So for this part, we're going to talk about your extracurriculars, but we all know you're going to do you have done so much. So maybe talk about 1 or 2 activities which you spent the most time on, or you feel is the most important to you. So Vanessa, do you want to start first?
Sure.
Yeah.
So maybe this kind of links to my coming out essay actually. So I mentioned fencing in my coming out essay. So I think that's what I'll talk about. And also, okay, yeah. So fencing was something I did since primary school. I'm not very good at it. I'm not a sports recruit or anything, but and all the competitions I've played were mainly local competitions. But it's something I really enjoy, and I'm school captain, so I did write about this in my coming out essay. And then other than that, for something more related to my major, I do some bio stuff. I've been like in the school biology club and everything. And then other than that, because my major, most of the majors I applied to are kind of a combination between human biology and public health. So public health does require a lot of negotiation, even a bit of international relations and politics and everything, if you're touching on like WHO or anything. So I also did a bit of MUN during high school.
Okay. And I always hear like bio students always like try to involve themselves in as much like internships and also like research stuff.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had to do that too?
I did a bit of clinical shadowing for my medicine applications, but I didn't really mention them in my U.S. application because it was pretty medicine focused. And because like the U.S. doesn't allow undergraduate entry for medicine, I didn't want to like make it appear to these admission officers that I was very set on like doing medicine for as an undergrad. So it wasn't a focus in my. It wasn't. Yeah.
Great. Okay. And Jasmine?
And for my common app, I actually wrote about boxing. So maybe it's like a common perception that you have to be very good at something to like actually write about it in your common app or anything. But actually, boxing is a new sport to me that I only got like involved in. I think like in the late part of my high school journey, but it was something that I was intrigued by and like something that really challenged me. So I think I wrote about how that was a challenging experience for me and like how like what steps it took for me to like step out of my comfort zone and like try something I haven't done before. And I think that it's a very like useful like tip to write about something that's not very familiar to the like admission officers, because it really shows how like you're willing to take the initiative to do something that like that's not easy to you. So I wrote about that in my Common App essay. And another extracurricular that I had was of course I did some community service related to like cancer children with my friend, and it's a self-initiated project, so it's also something that required a lot of like discipline, communication, and like initiative. So I think it's also something that like that's worth mentioning. And for Brown, there was a supplement that I'm not quite sure of the prompt at the moment because they change every year, but it was something that I wrote about doing a summer part-time job at a noodle shop. Like I was a waiter at a noodle shop for just a month. So it was a short experience, but it's not something that normal high school students would do during the summer because everyone would get so involved in like internships and everything.
Especially Hong Kong students.
Yeah. So I wrote about doing that and how like it was difficult because like I was faced with a lot of like criticism by like the restaurant owners, and also had to deal with like difficult customers. So I think it was something that like stood out for me. And I think so I encourage everyone to try doing something that's like different, or something that you might not think maybe useful, but is actually something that really shows like certain outstanding qualities about yourself.
Yeah, great. Vanessa, you talked about like doing like writing your Common App essay on like fencing. Can you like elaborate more on that?
Sure. So I had this anecdote about like a sick family member and me like struggling through this process and like achieving personal growth, and also like kind of discovering my academic interests in terms of like biology and public health, and then I kind of weaved the story with fencing. So I don't know if you guys have watched like the Netflix show like 25-21. It's like, if you remember, there's this phrase called like "on guard, play alley." Whenever you start the fencing match, right? It's a French phrase, and basically kind of means like get ready, and then like be on guard, and then like ready, set, go. Kind of French, yeah, and then start fighting. So I think I used this phrase to kind of piece all of the different pieces in my growth throughout high school together.
Yeah. Oh, wow, interesting. And like for both of you, like, did you let anyone edit your Common App essays? Like any essay in general?
Miss Young.
So Miss Yang.
Yeah.
For context, Miss Yang was our school counselor, and she was the only person that I actually we let read our essays. Yeah, we didn't peer read either because we felt like it was like Common App essays are quite personal.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so did you do like interviews with alumni?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
did that.
Okay, can you tell me some more about the experience, maybe?
Sure. I think all of my experiences were very casual on the U.S. side. I think it's just like prepare for it in this very general ways, like why you want to go to the school, why this major, and like what are your future plans after you graduate. So I think just like prep for these really these generic questions.
Yeah.
And then the rest will just flow pretty smoothly. I think I remember more than 50% of my alumni interviews ended up like with me having a chat with the interviewer about whether their kids should take the COVID vaccine. I don't know why, like they were really interested in that. Like, I think a lot of them were like iBankers in Hong Kong. They were just like naturally really interested in this topic and COVID as well. So they saw that I was a human biology major, so they were really interested. And so I think just go with the flow. There isn't a lot to prepare for U.S. interviews, I think.
Okay.
I think much like Vanessa, my experience was similar. It was all very casual and like the generic things you have to prepare, like I'm sure you all know. So, but I think something that like different for me for my U.S. interviews was that I think all of the alumni that interviewed me were genuinely interested in what I was planning on doing or making use, how I was planning to make use of the education at their university.
Yeah.
So they kept on asking me like, oh, what classes are you interested in, or like, oh, what campus activities are you most looking forward to? And like of course you have to like have your input, and then they would also respond with by sharing their own experience at that college. So I think it's actually a very good opportunity for you to like find out if you're actually a good fit for that school, because you kind of can tell by seeing like whether you vibe with that alumni. Like there were certain alumni that I found like, oh, I had like a click with more than the other schools. So I think it's very important to do your research to that school before you do the interview. And yeah, I think the rest is quite like it just go with the flow.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think for U.S. interviews, as much as like the school is trying to choose each candidate, I think it's also an opportunity for each candidate to look out for which school you would vibe with the most. And I think in general, U.S. colleges really value this. So I think, just chill for U.S. interviews, and
Okay. And for like the interview, do you like, apart from generic questions, do you remember some like questions that like hit you really hard or like was really out of the box that you kind of struggled with answering?
I don't think so.
Actually, I remember I forgot which college exactly that was, but there was this question where they asked me if I had the opportunity to do any research in the world, like if I was given like unlimited funds and everything, what would I do? Personally, I wasn't expecting that question because it's a very like, this was like leaning on the academic side for the US, and I wasn't expecting that. So I would say like as much as like Vanessa and I have said, like it's very personal and casual, but still prepare something that's related to your major or like your academic intentions and everything. So don't go all into your like ECAs and your personal aspirations and that. So
Right. And then for more like technical questions, like how did you dress? Like casual? Or
I think
like
smart casual.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
year, most of our interviews were done online, actually.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think
okay.
some schools have the policy that they don't allow their alumni interviewers to meet their
Oh, that's
interviewers
nice.
in
Oh,
person.
wow.
So
Okay.
I think all of my interviews were done
Same for me.
online.
Oh, okay. And how long were they?
I think around half an hour to
An hour.
an hour.
Depends
Yeah,
on
it depends on.
whether
It's
you
really
vibe
flexible.
with the
Yeah.
person.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. And like, did you ask questions at the end?
Oh,
Definitely, right?
yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
Yeah. So like, asked about the school.
Yeah,
or-
and their experience at the school, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like, it depends a lot on what they tell you during the
Yeah.
interview.
And I always think like don't ask something that you can find on their website, or
Yeah.
don't ask
Yeah.
like, oh, what was your favorite part about that school, or questions that you just know like others would have asked, or they would have been asked the same question so many times already. Sometimes you can do a little bit of research into your interviewer before your interview,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
just search up their names and
Yeah.
get some basic info on what they're good at or what they did during their time in the college, and ask them about that. It will leave a
Yeah.
better impression, I think.
Okay. And like, I heard you two like talk about like really good college acceptances like around the world, like UK, HK, and also the US. And I kind of wanted to ask you like, so did you two pay like for the like confirm that you're attending Brown and also Cornell? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you did like pay the fee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For now.
For
Yeah.
For
now.
now.
Yeah,
Actually, Brown doesn't require us to pay any deposit.
That is
so
they allow you to
nice.
commit
Nice.
without paying anything.
Okay. And Jasmine, you said that you were accepted to Berkeley too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, how did you decide for like between these?
Actually, for the U.S., I was struggling between Berkeley, Georgetown, and Brown, but I narrowed it down to Georgetown and Brown at the end.
Oh.
For Berkeley, I also think it's a very good school, but like, as I think I would prefer having like a private education over like a
State
large
school.
school like
Yeah,
Berkeley,
yeah.
because I think I thrive in like smaller communities with like more attention from the faculty.
Okay.
And actually for Georgetown, I was accepted into the School of Foreign Service, so it was also like a very difficult struggle, because obviously they have a very good like international business and relations program that I was interested in. But then I actually ultimately chose Brown because I Ms. Yang set me up with some Brown students and everything, and I found out that I think it's a very common thing for U.S. universities, except for like especially for all the Ivies, that they have a very strong graduate focus. But their undergraduate education, like sometimes you can see from online forums like Reddit, like undergraduate students don't get a lot of like research opportunities or like time with their professors, and I think that Brown has a relatively stronger undergraduate focus, and that's what made me choose Brown, because I'm going in as an undergraduate and I want as much as attention like as I can for the tuition I'm paying, because it's quite expensive.
Yeah. And then Vanessa, you also had Cornell and
Yeah, so for the U.S. side, I was choosing between Cornell and UCLA. So I really liked UCLA for a couple of reasons. Like, Cornell has really bad weather. That was a big reason. Like,
Right.
LA would have really nice weather,
Yeah.
fun summers. And in general, I feel like the college life would be happier at UCLA. That was a big concern for me. But then, ultimately, and also, because I was looking to do graduate medicine. So, in terms of medical school ranking, I think UCLA actually has a better ranking than Cornell.
Oh.
I think it might be because Cornell is a bit far from the city. It's in
Yeah.
Ithaca, so there might be less hospitals and everything around.
okay.
I assume that's why. But then ultimately for the deposit, I chose Cornell, and I waived my UCLA offer. And I think that was because the biggest reason, I think, was I liked my major at Cornell more, and also my college. So for Cornell, I was accepted to, as I mentioned, the College of Human Ecology, and my major was human biology, health, and society. So I really liked this Cornell is the biggest Ivy League school, and so I really wanted to enjoy the resources that this big school would offer. But at the same time, the College of Human Ecology was, I'm not sure if it's the smallest, I don't think so, but it was one of the smaller colleges at Cornell. So I also wanted to have this tight-knit community with all my professors and also all my classmates that I would only be able to enjoy at the College of Human Ecology at Cornell, while being able to be involved in all the large school-wide activities that Cornell would offer. So I think this is the main reason why I chose Cornell. And also about the medical school entry problem, I think it was okay because as an undergraduate I wouldn't be doing medicine anyway. Yeah. So for undergraduate programs, I think in general Cornell does have a better, more resources for undergraduates than UCLA would. So ultimately I did chose Cornell.
Okay, and for you're enrolled in a certain college, right? So what I'm getting is Cornell has a lot of schools, and what if you didn't want to do medicine? What if you wanted to do comp sci, computer science? Could you transfer?
I'm not sure. I actually never really looked into this question. I think I'm quite firm on my major, but and actually I think my major it is quite flexible. So it's you can, because from the name you know that there's kind of three focuses that you can go along. So you can either go on this very science-based human biology path, but you can also go on this more public health path that would lead you to WHO or whatever. So it's quite a flexible major. So I think I'm quite firm on, I really like this mix, this combo of all of these different focuses in the health sciences, and I don't think I would change my major for now. So I've never really looked into that question.
Okay, nice.
I think something different for me is that unlike Vanessa, she's very firm on her major, and I'm actually not quite set on what I want to study yet. So which is why Brown has another appeal for me is their open curriculum. I'm sure everyone has heard of it, and that's what every Brown student says about their school. So the open curriculum is something that I actually really look forward to at Brown, because I think it would give me a lot of freedom to explore different things that I'm not quite sure right now. So unlike Georgetown, I'm already enrolled in a certain college, so I think that would limit the scope of things that I would be able to explore. So yeah, the open curriculum is another reason that I forgot to mention, why I committed to Brown finally.
Yeah, and also this is unrelated, but for Georgetown, which you have to enroll in programs, right? In the SFS. Yeah. So can you change those?
I think yes. So they only accept you into the college, but not into a specific program, and you have to do you can do any program within that college.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, for your information, Georgetown has the best political science program in the whole world. So yeah, that's why I'm so focused on Georgetown too.
So that's why it was a difficult choice.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay, great. And also lastly, do you have any advice for students? Let's start with what they should do in high school first. So I know a lot of students in Hong Kong, they, especially our local schools, everyone's involved in the same stuff, orchestra, basketball, or those traditional sports stuff. So do you think that's all right, or how did you grow to discover your own passions and differentiate yourself from the group?
I think, I mentioned earlier, actually you can tell from my ECAs that they weren't very typical or stereotypical. I did things that that might not look very outstanding on paper. I wasn't a national champion of anything, or I wasn't doing an internship on curing cancer or anything, but I was just I think that what's so important about your experiences isn't the name or the awards that you get, but rather you want to show the admissions officer what you have taken away from these experiences and how your personality has shown through in these experiences. These are the things that actually count, and these are the things that the college and or university actually want to see about you. So like even like things that might seem very trivial, like doing like being a waiter in a local noodle shop, or like just trying a new sport, things. I think these are the moments that can really allow like officers to see who you truly are. So I don't think don't stress out about having to do something that's like big and like wow, but do something that's like true to yourself.
Yeah, I agree. So I think growing up, I was quite like I was the stereotype that Grace like I was like the violin. I was like the Asian violin kid who was involved in orchestra, right? That was me. I think, but then I think eventually in high school, after like doing many years of violin, all of that generic Asian stuff, I think I was able to really find what I actually enjoyed and just kind of try to kick everything out. Like I stopped playing the violin and a couple of other ECAs that I realized I didn't enjoy as much. I think initially I felt like I was losing something, right? But I think eventually, and also throughout the college application process, I think like after going through the whole thing, I think I really realized that, as Jasmine said, like it's really important to just have, you don't have to be a national champion really, but just have a couple of things that really you actually enjoy and you sound genuine when you're talking about it. I think that's what matters the most.
Right.
I think I was talking to a few of my like international friends who's not in Hong Kong. Like they're across the world, and they also got like accepted into like good universities.
Yeah.
And I think that we found like a golden word for college applications is passion. Like whatever you do, you have to show that you're really passionate about what you're doing, and I think that's what like they're looking for.
Right.
Passionate students.
Okay, and moving on, like, so it, like, do you remember, like, college app season? Yeah, like, do you remember, like, how much time you spent on college apps, especially, like, US apps, and, like, if you think it's worth it or not?
I think that I actually spent quite a lot of time on the US apps because I think that the workload began in I would say the spring of Form 5. That's when everyone started taking like SATs and ACTs like intensely, and that's when you have to like write up your first draft of your Common App and everything. So I would say like start your standardized testing early because you don't want them to overlap with your essay writing, because that creates like a huge time crunch and like stress in addition to your school workload. And for your essays, I would say start early, but then also from like a personal experience, I don't think it matters that much because you end up having 6 or 7 different drafts before the draft you submit. So even if you start early, you're gonna think it's not good enough. So I would say get your standardized testing done as soon as you can, and then you can start drilling on your essays.
How early for the standardized tests?
I would say ideally get them done before June of your Form 5, or actually before March if you can, in the first term of your Form 5.
Form 5, so like junior year.
Yeah.
Okay. And also like, so how early should you start your essays then?
I would say in the time I started seriously writing was like maybe
Summer
or like in when senior year began, but I would say start in the summer because you're gonna also you have to have a college list before you start writing your essays, because you have to get your supplements done and you don't want to like supplements are as important as your Common App. I would say.
So I think for me, I did my standardized testing a bit earlier, so I finished it within the fall of Form 5, so my junior year, because I wanted to leave time for my other testing. So like I would have PG exams in the second term of Form 5. That would be very important because like your grades are really the kind of entry point for if you're trying to apply for like competitive universities, especially because I was also juggling between UK applications and applications to Hong Kong. So I think I tried to get the US standardized testing out of my way as soon as possible. and then also leave time for my UK standardized testing, which would come in the summer leading up to Form 6. And then for my essays, I think I was, like, my time management was very bad. Like, so I think I missed the May 1st deadline for
What's
like
the
first
deadline?
for like our first draft. That's like our internal deadline for personal statements. And then, but even though I missed it, I think it wasn't a very big thing though, because like I ended up changing out my Common App essay for like
A lot more.
Anyway. So I think, but try to get as much done as possible during the summer leading up to your senior year, I think. Because after your senior year starts, especially if you're applying to unis in other regions as well, I think the pressure really starts piling up. You also have a lot of IB work to do, IAs, EEs, TOK, and everything. So I think at least for Common App and like UCAS statement, try to get it done as much as possible in the summer. And then for my supplementals, I also think I did a bad job, as in like I started too late, and I ended up doing a lot of it in the Christmas holiday before the January deadline. So
Okay.
I think that was not favorable. I think I could have done a better job in writing my supplementals if I had a bit more time. At the same time, like I also had a lot of IA final draft deadlines.
Yes.
And I think, so that would be my advice. Like, try to start your supplementals as early as possible as well.
For context, like IAs are like research papers,
internal assessments.
For like IB.
So like
students.
IB coursework.
Okay. Last question. So you chose the colleges you applied to, right? Like, you chose them before you started applying, of course. So, how did you narrow them down? Because there's a time limit and like a quota, and so like, do you regret applying to any of these colleges and stuff like that? Yeah.
I think personally, so when I began my college application process, I wasn't very set on applying or going to the U.S. because my parents were against me going to the U.S., mainly for the safety problem, especially as like Asian girls. So like gun problems and like hate crimes and everything. So when I narrowed down when I like started preparing my college list, I actually only like applied to the more competitive colleges because I thought like me and my parents reached this like consensus that if I didn't get accepted into any like really competitive colleges, I wouldn't be going to.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah,
right?
It wasn't worth the risk of going to the U.S. So I think, but I also had the same. I also had like a rough direction of what I wanted to study. So I wanted something related to like international relations or anything related to business and all that. So I think when I searched for colleges, I looked for colleges that had like a good reputation for these colleges. So that's why I applied to Georgetown. And also, but for the other colleges, I mainly just applied to those with like a good prestige and a good reputation because I know I would be getting good resources and a good alumni network there. And also I think I actually had like in the summer leading up to high school, I visited the US for some like summer camps and programs and everything. And so during that time I had the opportunity to do some like college visits with my parents. And I think we also liked some of the campuses, so that's how I also got to like pick schools on my list. And so I think that was it for me.
Yeah, so for me, I think so basically when I was applying for the RD deadline, I already had a Canada offer from the University of Toronto, and I also had a UK offer from King's College London. So both of these, the Canada offer was unconditional, and then the offer from the UK had a pretty low conditional. So so I already had these two options in front of me, so I didn't apply to too many safety schools in the US. So basically, when I was choosing my colleges, I used one of the spots for the UC schools because I would be able to apply with one form to a couple of colleges. So that was one of my spots. And then other than that, I just chose schools from, like one of my references was the medical school list, because a lot of schools actually didn't have a medical school. So for example, I think Princeton doesn't have a medical school. So like these schools were kind of out of my list because without a medical school, like I would have less research opportunities available to me as an undergrad. So so this was my second. Actually, UC Berkeley also doesn't have a medical school, but I ended up still applying. But anyway, so that was my second cutoff point. And then after that, I think I had a list of like around 15 schools left. And then I did some virtual visits because of COVID. I wasn't able to go on campus. And then I did some virtual visits, and then this narrowed it down to like 10-ish schools. And then I started writing supplementals. And then I was on a really big time crunch before the deadline at writing supplementals. So I didn't have time to write all the supplementals. So how I ultimately chose schools to apply for the RD deadline was how short their essays were. So this was like my last, this was how I chose schools.
I think to add, I also remembered like supplements were like a factor in deciding like which colleges I would apply to.
Yeah.
Like I think some of you would know like U Chicago has like really strange
Yeah.
colleges.
Yeah.
So I think actually I attended a U Chicago info session in Hong Kong, and I really liked the school.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to go. But then I think the first concern is like Chicago's location. It's not very safe and everything. But the major problem was that their essays were so strange that I had no clue on how to tackle them. So I ended up, I didn't apply to U Chicago. So I think like the essays and like location and everything is also a really important factor in choosing. And also another tip is like, I actually saw this after I got all my decisions, but like some people say like actually different colleges, they have different like stereotypes of their students. So I would say don't 100% trust all of these stereotypes, but from these stereotypes, it's actually a really good reference point for you to get an impression of what the student body in that college is like the certain vibe of the students you would get. I think you can also get this vibe by like actually directly interacting with the students studying at that college. Maybe it's your like high school seniors and like alumni and everything. So find like from your interviews you would vibe with students of certain schools over other schools, and that's how you know you'll belong in those schools.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for listening to the end. Be sure to check out our Instagram at Growing Gains Podcast so you know when the next episode is up and also what it's going to be about. See you there!